Let's see what's going on in Rimworld today. Huh? Bran, get off Minecraft! We got to tell people about the new update. So, for the 4 colonies out there who haven't gotten into microelectronics, you might not have heard about the new 1.6 update and DLC coming soon to the Rim. Well, while information about the DLC isn't complete or known, the new update to Rimworld can be assessed through the unstable Steam branch for beta testing as of writing. So keep in mind the information we will be sharing is from the public changelog and is subject to change after writing. But with some of the new changes, we had to alert so many people as we can for the future. And boy, the future is looking bright. So sit back, relax, prepare your colony for some new changes, and I do mean quite a few of them. And let's talk about some of the great new challenges to the Rim in 1.6. So right from the get-go, you might be wondering, what about mods? Don't worry, thanks to the beta, modders have time to look behind the scenes and actually plan ahead, just like the 1.5 beta, though this time, right on the changelog, they provided a helpful document of information for modders. While not as helpful to me personally, for any modders out there who might be watching, look at the 1.6 mod primer. It is full of information explaining good, behind-the-scenes things like tick rates, prefabrication rules, pathing info, and much, much more. I had to start with this first because we all know that with a new major update comes the annoying process of updating the mod list. Don't want a repeat of a certain open world post-apocalyptic game. Quality of life. So, on to the things you really want to know about. Quality of life changes. Oh yeah, we got some good ones. First up, you know the mod replace stuff? You know the mod that lets you build over walls and buildings so you don't have to hear and tear everything down to improve them? Oh yeah. Yep, that's right, in 1.6 that's built right into the game. Finally, you can easily go from wood to stone to strong metal, all without leaving your pawns out in danger. Just remember, for the base game, you can only replace things that are similar, like walls for walls, beds for beds, still better than nothing, and you cannot build walls over doors. Nope, won't work. For other quality of life, the designator draw zones, so know how when you make walls they are a straight line? Not anymore. With a simple keybind of Q and E, which yes, can be changed if you desire, you can switch the drawer style so you can make lines, rectangles, even circles, plus a remember draw line cycle in the options so you don't have to constantly be changing when base building. Of course, that's all wonderful stuff, but there's more! For other quality of life changes, bridges can now be paintable. So now you can have the pink bridges that every Rimworld player wishes they could have. A deconstruct conduits designator, so it's easier to actually deconstruct conduits. You can toggle to not cut down special trees. Yes, thank you. Can't tell you how many times I would tell pawns to chop a bunch of trees and forget to undesignate a certain anima tree and get an anima scream. Colonists can be ordered to dress pawns. This includes prisoners. So much easier to now put a prison uniform on pawns, or at the very least take off their worn down clothing for fresh ones, so they aren't in a bad mood from that at least. Oh, and you can tell pod launchers to auto build the pods. This right here should have been in the game quite a few updates ago. Same with the auto-hacking designator, so pawns will hack systems without you having to tell them to keep doing it. Also, the ability to eject fuel from auto-fuelable buildings might be useful for a few people. A few very destructive people. Oh, and cool down on alerts about items deteriorating, because one of the best ways to get rid of old tainted clothing is throwing it in the river. Ooh, part 3. Other great changes. When a pawn wants to join your colony, you actually get a bit more information. Best skill. Sure, you don't know everything about them, but knowing if, say, other great changes. When a pawn wants to join your colony, you actually get a bit of information. Their best skill. Sure, you don't know everything about them, but knowing if, say, the guy being chased by 20 raiders has a high skill that could be worth your pawn's life for is a good change in pace, for me at least. When pawns are on fire, you can order other pawns to extinguish them. Yes, pawns. Oh yes, thank you. Don't need to explain why that's a useful thing in the heat of battle. If you are burying pawns, pawns will be using sarcophagi first before graves. Nice little tweak, along with burning drugs excluding actual medicine. Have a few stories of doing that and losing Glitterworld meds. Not a good time. Items on the ground will be moved if you are making a door. A simple change that can save you. If I'm really meaning that it will save you. I've had invaders break in because someone left one thing in a door frame and they walked right through and killed everyone in their sleep. Speaking of moving, pawns who don't haul still put books back into the bookshelf. Manners. It's nice to have manners. By the way, steam geysers will now be highlighted when building a generator. You'll be able to see where they all are and plan accordingly instead of searching your whole map for them. Other improvements. Oh, by the way, the game has been tweaked to improve performances, especially in the mid to late game. A lot of systems have been rewritten to improve workload, stuff like the pathfinding system being multi-threaded along with the lighting system. Oh, and stuff being less ticked when not on camera, further reducing the load on the game. In fact, Adam versus Everything proved the other day that there seems to be a 50% improvement in tick rate. So shout out to him for finding that sweet info for us. Also, the load times have also been improved. Granted, all this is just from base game. Everyone knows mods will add to the weight of the game, but hey, any help to the base game is welcome. Plenty of other performance tweaks have been added, which is mostly optimization of a few things that cause issues like egg laying, animals, hauling, systems, caravan, foraging, and so on. Scaria. Ah, yes. Of course, something you don't want to see is a rabid animal. Well, in Rimworld, Scaria has had a few tweaks. For starters, Scaria-infested animals now have a change in look, having a red, mangy look with sores. Though now Scaria-infested animals don't start Manhunter, however, they're more likely to go feral if you attack them, and when they do go Manhunter, that's a permanent one. It does not go away. Not anymore. Before you ask, no, you can't tame Scaria-infested animals, so what else changed? Well, your pawns can now get rabies. A pawn who is damaged by Scaria-infested animals can get a Scaria infection. If it reaches 100, they get into a permanent berserk rage that lasts until they die or are somehow cured of the Scaria. Needless to say, Scaria have now become far more scarier, and rightfully so. Rabies in real life is one of the worst ways to die. There is a reason why Old Yeller had to be put down. Flight. So guess what? We now have flight with certain animals. Birds like chickens, ducks, and geese, and I assume future added avians in both DLC and mods can now fly. Ooh, this means they can go over obstacles, bypass traps, improve their speed, and enter the map by entering on any square as opposed to the map edge. This also means they can leave in the same way, so doing a bird hunt might be harder, since everyone knows the first thing a bird does when startled is to get out. Though this also leads me to a small worry. What if there are insectoids that can fly? UI improvements. Moving on. The UI got some tweaking along with everything else. There is a jump to option, so when you get a quest that has a location on the world map, you can see exactly where it is. Great for playthroughs with a lot of questing going on. Plus, if you have an active map going on, the location on the map will have a green border. Oh, and you can make some policies default with the new Make Default button. Yes, please. Actual gameplay changes. So now we'll talk about actual gameplay add-ons to the update. First up, caravans now have the ability to set up camp. That's right, the Setup Camp mod has been added in, though this one does have a few caveats. Spend too long at the camp and you will get attacked, so use this time to get supplies and move on. More importantly, if your caravan is lost, like say everyone got food poisoning and passed out, they will automatically make a camp and you have a chance to save them, rather than instantly losing the caravan. As for actually loading the caravan, you will have the ability to finally remove things from the caravan during the loading process, and if you must leave, you can force the caravan to leave the map. Any animals not roped, people picked up if they are incapacitated or loaded in, will be left behind. However, trust me when I say the ability to just tell them to go when they are taking too long is a godsend. Thank you, Randy. It used to only be a dev menu option. It belonged in the base game. Oh, and they leave via the shortest route off the map too. No more taking the scenic route through a bunch of gun-firing maniacs. Part 2. Rooms also get some changes. For instance, awful rooms are less awful and mediocre rooms are a little bit better. Pawns won't be as upset. Doesn't mean you should give them nothing, but it does mean the early game stresses aren't as stressful. There is also now a huge balance change of how some production buildings get a penalty for being in the wrong room. I mean, it makes sense if I have a research table right next to a machine table, fabrication table, and the butcher table. Yeah, gonna be very stressful. Now, the game will be rewarding by making specific rooms for certain production rather than leaving them all in a huge room. So all of my stories about mega bases being the best thing ever aren't so much the best stories about making bases anymore. In fact, we need to make a new base building video, as well as some talks about these medical beds that won't be turning your barracks into a hospital, at least if you put a couple in. Given now that surgeries have more chance of success based on cleanliness of the room, that's a good thing. On top of that, room sizes have less of an impact on your pawn's mood. If the rooms are smaller, this might have something to do with Rimworld Odyssey and your being in space and rooms being smaller. Part 3. Weapons and armor also got a few balance changes, like how flak pants and vests get a little bit more shot protection with vests no longer covering the shoulders. But more importantly, Marine, Grenadier, Cataphract, and Phoenix armor are now faster. You are still slower than normal pawns, but now they will actually make it to the fight. Main Marine armor is 0.4 movement penalty to a 0.25, with Cataphract heavy armor being 0.8 to 0.5. Pretty good deal. But what about the weapons? Pilas have a better touch accuracy and cooldown, making them a bit more viable early game. Revolvers' medium and long range accuracy has been slightly buffed. LMGs get a reduced cooldown with an extra point of damage. Sniper rifles get a cooldown reduction, emphasis on it being snipers and not just any rifle, along with a better medium and long range. Miniguns' touch accuracy is up a bit, and their cooldown is reduced even more. So yeah, rip and tear. Charge rifles get a range improvement and a bonus of damage, making them even better. And the charge lance, higher range, but Lancer's combat power is also improved, so watch out. They can hit you from further and harder. Do I like these changes? Yes, I do. Especially for the weaker weapons. Some of the lower tier weapons needed a bit of love. Few other tweaks. Plenty of other minor tweaks that I won't go over here, but a few examples that caught my eye are construction failures are more forgiving, so you always get at least one resource that was used in the construction, so any rare materials might not be completely lost. Colonists read slower in the dark. Okay, this one I'm surprised had to be added in. Thought that would have been there before. Thought that was a given in general, but what do I know? Workbenches outside have a 80% work speed multiplier, which is down from the usual 90%, so make sure your rooms are roofed from now on. It actually is mattering a bit more than it used to matter, even though it did matter before, just more matter than matter was matter. Ducks are spawnable in cold bogs and temperate swamp biomes, not just as a buyable animal like chickens and cows. A few items actually moved from the DLC to the base Rimworld, things being face masks from biotech and timber shrooms from ideology. We can all assume this has to do with Rimworld Odyssey having space shrooms and spacesuits. Colonists will more likely feed downed animals kibble, as the changelog put it. No more feeding lavish meals to sick iguanas. 4 royalty shuttles actually provide comfort to pawns when they are used, and they will reduce the number of pawns requested for the pawns lend quests. Ideology's ancient complex now have more layouts with more variety of rooms. Can't wait to play around with that. Pawns with indoor needs finally don't need mountains overhead to get over the 50% threshold. Oh, and pawns can play the drums for entertainment. Again, surprised that it wasn't there before. Guess I didn't notice. Part 2. Biotech gets a few tweaks in the form of 2 new genes. Indoor Dweller, which disables outdoor needs, and yes, dirt moles now get that by default. I know my writer Bren also has this gene. We can all become neats now. The other gene is the webbed phalanges, provided a 5% manipulation penalty in exchange for no movement penalties on water terrain. Children learning lessons actually display who's teaching them, and growth tier 8 for a child gets 3 to 4 passions to choose from as opposed to just 3. Also, the market value of xenogems have been reduced to avoid easy easy money with high-skilled pawns, as the changelog put it. Yes, I can see that, but it also means that buying Xeno gem slaves is more affordable. Finally, Anomaly made it so incinerator weapons don't have a quality. Some minor improvement to the Undercave generation. You finally don't get the need holding platform alert for at least 4 days. Thank you, game. And Dead Life Dust IEDs have a reduced radius. There are more changes and bug fixes, but at this point, you might as well read the changelog, as opposed to me reading them out like a Reddit AI bot. Despite what people say about me being a 1, I am not an AI. Ending thoughts. So finally, thoughts on all these changes. They are good. A lot of quality of life, a lot of good little tweaks, and most importantly, the fixes to the engine and actual program of Rimworld to be better in the mid to late game. Of course, as always, we'd like to thank all our Patreons and channel members that support us and make content like this possible. We couldn't do it without you guys, and we hope you guys all enjoyed this 1.6 video. We will be covering Rimworld Odyssey very, very soon, and more to come as news comes out. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.